Democratic strategist and attorney Adam Sostrin joins me for our Across the Aisle segment tonight. Adam, yesterday in North Carolina, President Obama was stumping for Hillary Clinton. He's been campaigning for her a lot. He said this. Take a look.
I've got Republican friends who don't think or act the way Donald Trump does. This is somebody who is uniquely unqualified. I ran against John McCain. I ran against Mitt Romney. I thought I'd be a better president. But I never thought that the Republic was at risk if they were elected.
Adam, I'm just going to be blunt here and say, in your opinion, as a Democrat, I know we disagree on some policies, we agree on some policies. Is this type of language from President Obama, is this a bit extreme to talk about Trump destroying the Republic?
You know, I don't think it's that extreme in light of some of the statements we've heard from Trump, right? When was the last time we had a candidate go out there and say, I can't trust this judge, he's Mexican, right? I mean, that's unprecedented. And we have that with Trump. You can't make it up. And also with respect to what's happening with the Supreme Court, I believe that the Republicans just want to leave it at 8. They say that they're not going to appoint, any other justice that's, selected by a Democrat. Things are changing in this country, maybe not necessarily for the good. So I understand some of the despair that was voiced by Obama.
And I understand his policy differences. I think it's pretty clear that President Obama has differences in policies and opinions, even values from Donald Trump here. But just to touch on those two issues that you bring up, Judge Curiel, the judge who Trump said was biased here, we actually found out via WikiLeaks that Curiel's wife met with Hillary campaign chair John Podesta. So there was a bit of conflict of interest there. Didn't have anything to do with his race. I don't know whether that was media spurred, a Democratic talking point, or whether there was some insinuation from Trump there. If there was, it was wrong. But there was some level of conflict of interest there. But in regards to the Supreme Court, 8 justices, first of all, who knows if that will happen? If there's a Democratic president, in all likelihood, they would confirm eventually a nominee for the Supreme Court. But it's not unprecedented to have different numbers of judges here. Going back to the extreme, I don't think it's the destruction of our republic.
Well, first of all, going back just briefly to the justice thing, yes, initially it was 6 justices, then we brought it up back to 9. Just the idea of some of the conflict that's happening with the parties, that nothing's getting done. With Donald Trump, he is such an isolating figure. And when was the last time you had a candidate get out there who's accused of, and I know you're going to mention Bill Clinton, right? But there's 13 people that came forward with sexual assault allegations. You have a person who's talking about, sort of in a way taking apart NATO. All these things are happening, perhaps could occur under a Trump presidency. So there's so much despair coming from the Democrats. It's not so out of the question to have that kind of language, I suppose.
Right, and isolating, I don't know, maybe that's a conversation for a different day, but I look at Trump's rallies compared to Tim Kaine's rallies, and I don't know which one seems more isolating. But the sexual assault, I tread very carefully with this, because if these allegations are true, then party aside, that's a horrific thing, and he should be held accountable for that. You are correct. I am going to bring up Bill Clinton, but not even to hack Bill Clinton. The same with Bill Clinton. If there's evidence that he did this, he should be held accountable. My problem with these stories is that the media, in general, the narrative, the talking points are not holding these two men to the same standard. We either believe or we don't believe. We investigate or we don't investigate. We use evidence or we don't use evidence. But we can't apply different standards to different people when they're going to be in positions of power in our nation.
There's no question that with respect to certain outlets in the media that there is a bias. Of course that's occurring. But there's also no question that now we're faced with a candidate where I think we just had the Crusader. That's the KKK publication, come out in favor of Donald Trump. These things they've never occurred. And so when we're talking about Mitt Romney and we're talking about John McCain, I understand that the Democrats have talking points and they do some identity politics and things like that. But Trump, I think he stands alone. This is an exceptional circumstance.
Right, and I don't know if it's just a circumstance or if it's an advance in technology here, because of course, no excuse. I'm certain that if Trump knew he would disavow the support from the KKK, everyone would, no matter what side, what political aisle that we're on. That's horrific. No one wants the support of disgusting racists such as they, but we have people on both sides of the aisle doing that. We just had the James O'Keefe videotape, the hidden camera conversation with the Democratic donor, Benjamin Barber, where he said that black people who vote Republican are seriously effed in the head. I mean, that's just as racist as the other.
It's just so terrible. I mean, that's the kind of identity politics I hope that will end in the near future. I hope we don't have to keep seeing a recurrence of that cycle every single 4 years. And obviously it brings up the issue with the emails coming out and the lack of privacy and things like that. But we can't have that kind of language occurring, either with the Democrats, the Republicans. There's no question. With that, I agree with you.
Right, and I would just bring up, I read a very interesting article by Charles Cook in the National Review. He was talking about this extreme language, how if you use language to the point of hyperbole, it almost loses its meaning because it's not as precise.
Right.
It's okay if President Obama doesn't agree with values or policy or politics or behavior or personality or judgment with Donald Trump, but he should use those words precisely describe what he's doing. When he takes it to this level, essentially, I guess he's rewriting history. He's acting like he didn't have any problem with Mitt Romney. He didn't have any problem with John McCain. They were just guys that he thought he'd make a better president. But if you look back, that's not really the case. I mean, Joe Biden was the one that said that Mitt Romney would put African Americans back in chains. That's a terrible thing to say, and that's the same kind of identity politics that we were just talking about.
Right, of course. That's the kind of language that has to go out. There's no question about that. But here we have, and just here's another circumstance with respect to Trump that we haven't seen with any of those other prior candidates for the presidency, is you have somebody come out and they say they want to change the libel laws. So I think that's what Obama is tapping into. I know that the language is strong, but when was the last time we had to maybe fear that an outlet such as yourself, One America News Network, things like that, that they have to be a little bit more fearful the next time that they put out a press piece on a person who's in elected office? Hopefully those things don't change. It seems to be that we have pretty established precedent in that regards, but we don't want that to occur. So anyway.
No, we don't. But I think we see that culturally, and this is a different topic for a different day, but we see that culturally happening. And I completely agree it's a bad thing. We see that culturally happening on college campuses where people, it tends to be with conservative views that they're not allowed to express their views. They're discriminated. We even see some instances where there's violence towards conservatives or Trump supporters. It happens culturally before it happens legislatively, and that's what we're seeing. Adam, we're out of time. Less than 30 seconds here. Quick answer.
Yes.
What do you expect to happen over the weekend before the election on Tuesday?
Well, the numbers are getting closer and closer and closer, and I understand that. And then the Comey release the statement with respect to the email gate, of course, that was sort of nebulous, and we don't know what he was referring to. I don't think, though, it's going to change the fact that Hillary would be president. Trump does have to win all those battleground states, so that would be a long, hard slog, and I don't see it occurring. So I think Hillary will probably be elected president.
All right, well, we'll have to touch base again next week and
Sounds
see if
great.
that is in fact what's going to happen. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Our final tipping point of the night: what do pedophiles, spirit dinners, and the Muslim Brotherhood all have in common? Well, we'll tell you when we come back.